Okay, hi everybody. This is not part of the optional next week classes where we'll be looking at two other poems by John Donne. I really just wanted to follow through on our lecture about the canonization, and we saw in that discussion that um, Donne. Well, one thing that I think we saw, which was very, very interesting, is that although Donne seems to go along with some of the criticism that the Baconian worldview implies. Um, all coherence gone. The new science calls all in doubt. Remember that from the anniversary poem. Um, um, there still is for Donne the power of love to bring people together. And even though it's so playful, all of Donne's poems on some level are very playful. I think that aspect of it is very serious. And it's just really worth repeating that Donne and Shakespeare are creating the languages of love that we use. Now, what does that mean? How can they create the languages of love? Well, they are thinking about love in ways that haven't been thought about before. In fact, really, before the 17th century really represents this special blip. And I think we may feel a special affinity to that blip, where the relationship between mind and body, or spirit and body, or spirit and matter, are are seen on a kind of continuum. Before the 17th century, Donne and his contemporaries would have inherited a Catholic view in which there really is a very clear dualism, a clear distinction between, on the one hand, the spirit, on the other hand, the letter or the body or the physical. And marriage in that context, in a Catholic context, is looked at as a sanctified right. And because it is sanctified by God, the fact that people are unhappy within that sanctified relationship doesn't make a difference. And therefore, well, that's why Henry VIII had to get divorced from Catherine of Aragon without the church, because Catholics don't believe in that. And part of that belief shows the extent to which spirit and body are considered to be separate from one another. Marriage is a spiritual thing. You're not happy, tough. John Milton, who we'll be reading after Donne, he is the first one in Europe to write a set of divorce tracts. He did divorce two of his wives, but he writes a set of divorce tracts, which, and the idea that you can divorce someone, it is gendered as male, but the idea that you can divorce somebody shows an awareness of individualism which was not present, meaning the person is not happy and therefore gets divorced. Catholics say we don't care. But for Protestants, for people like Milton, and Milton articulates this, Milton, the great individualist, articulates this by talking about the necessity of those who are married to get along with each other. And then, so that's sort of, it's a blip. That's the before is the Catholic, the after is the philosophical. And the philosophical, as we've been suggesting throughout the class, the philosophical is going to take that continuity between spirit and matter, or between mind and body, that is pursued in poetry, pursued in paradox through poetry, and going to and split it entirely. Now, Donne is writing between those, and we see that in the canonization, he talks about, he uses the sacred to talk about a secular, romantic, even sexual relationship, not because he's perverse, not because he's virtuotic, not because he's showing off, but because he's showing the fundamental spiritual elements of the everyday and of a human relationship. So Donne in his poetry is kind of re-sacralizing or making sacred the relationship between people. That's a language that we've inherited. Now, why I wanted to look at this poem together and really consider this part of the last class is this is kind of the other side of that. Here is a poem Donne writes later in his life. He writes a series of holy sonnets. This one is, they're known by their first line. It's called Batter My Heart. And we'll see in this poem, just as Donne in the canonization uses sacred languages to render what we think to be the secular or the mundane sacred. Here, and we'll have to see how it works here, Donne uses what we would perceive to be secular, romantic language in order to understand the sacred. So it works both ways. Now, in these poems, well, the cast of characters is different. The main guy in the poem is the speaker. He's distraught, feeling alienated from his God, as we'll see. He does personify reason, just like we saw Wyatt personify love. Donne is personifying reason. I think that's in about the 7th line. But let's read the whole thing. Batter my heart, three-person God, for you as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend. It's a weird combination. Knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend. That I may rise and stand o'erthrow me, and bend your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new. Well, it could be like on a masochistic website, right? I, like a usurped town to another do. So there's another character here. I, like a usurped town to another do. We don't know who that is yet. Labor to admit you, but oh, to no end. Reason, there's the personified reason. Reason, your viceroy and me should defend. I'm depending upon reason. Remember, Wyatt turns to love as an excuse to run away. Here he's saying, well, reason should me defend, but I'm guessing it's not going to work out here. Reason, your viceroy and me should defend, but is captive and proves weak or untrue. Sorry, yet dearly I love you, but the poet says, nonetheless, even though I'm captive to another one, who is done captive to, I, like a usurped town, like a taken town, to another do labor to admit you, but oh, to no end I can't. And we should understand here that Donne is describing a psychological state, a state of person who wants to believe but cannot believe. There's a part of his desire that wants him to believe, but he can't believe. Why not? I, like a usurp a town to another, do labor to admit you, but oh, to no end. Reason, your viceroy and me should defend, but reason's not going to help here, but is captive and proves weak or untrue. Yet dearly I love you and would be loved fain. I'd like to be loved in return, but am betrothed upon your enemy. Oh, that's to another do, your enemy. And you can, who is this? It's the, whatever you want to call it, the dark side, the Yetzer Hara, the Satan, Satan. Yet dearly I love you and would be loved fain, but I'm betrothed unto your enemy. Sorry, God, I'd love to get involved with you, but I'm betrothed, married to your enemy, Satan. And how does he get out of this? Divorce me, untie or break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I accept you, enthrall me. Never shall be free, nor ever chaste, except you ravish me. So here's the world of poetic paradox. Let's just read those last 4 lines again. Divorce me or break that knot again. I don't know what that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I accept you, enthrall me, never shall be free. There's a paradox. How can you be free when you're enthralled? So somehow Donne is imagining the relationship to the divine as the source of freedom. And he's imprisoned to the devil, to Satan, whatever that is, to his senses, whatever is not reasonable. He's imprisoned or devoted or taken by, it seems there's not a lot of not a lot of agency here. He's taken by his enemy, and he wants God here to be the agent. Take me to you, imprison me, for I accept you, enthrall me, except you turn me into a prisoner, never shall be free. I only become free when I am life at home. Yet dearly I love you and would be loved fain, but am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie or break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I accept you, enthrall me. Never shall be free. Freedom and being imprisoned, nor ever chaste except you ravish me. Well, the last line of the poem turns decidedly sexual. Nor ever chaste except you ravish me. So what does he want here? And we can go back to the first lines. Batter my heart, three-person God, the Trinity, for as you but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend. So again, this paradox, you're going to knock me over so you can fix me, that I may rise and stand, or throw me. So what kind of psychic state is he talking about? Who needs to be overthrown? The self that is standing in the way of the desire for devotion. And in order for that desire for devotion to be activated, we need the force of the divine. You're forced to break, blow, burn, and make me new. Through destruction, there's this idea of newness. It's a very interesting psychic personality he's describing here, not actually the rational believer. This speaker needs you see that there's a kind of very strong skepticism here, because this speaker, in order for him to be free, he has to be entirely enthralled, broken, overthrown. And then this last sexual line, nor ever chaste except you ravish me. never virginal except that you're ravished. So here, and again, it's a violent sexual image, nor ever chaste except you ravish me. So we would naturally ask of this poem, just like we asked of the Canonization, and here's the connection. Just as we asked in the Canonization, why does Donne import the language of theology to discuss the languages of relationship? So here we ask the question, why does Donne import the language of relationships, of romance, of sexuality, really of violent sexuality, in order to describe the relationship to the divine? And our answer to that will be that, and I'm sorry, we're not doing this in class, but our answer to that will be that for Donne, the relationship to the divine is not a purely rational one. And anyone who seeks to understand the relationship to the divine as purely rational is missing out on this experience. Now, it's a very troubled and problematic, and it seems almost traumatized experience. But for Donne, the religious experience is, in a way, sexual. It's physical, it's bodily, it's longing. So just as, going back to the Canonization, just as in the Canonization, I'm making believe I'm writing an essay now, just as in the Canonization, Donne imports the languages of theology to render sacred human relationships, so Donne in the Holy Sonnet, by bringing the physicality of human desire to religion, enriches, makes more complicated, fills out the religious experience. The religious experience, Donne is saying here, is not just with the mind, it's also with the body. The body itself has to be brought into the experience of the divine. The divine has to be brought into the experience of the body. The divine, the romantic has to be brought into the experience of the divine.